Okay, you guys, so Xtrfy sent over their new K5 compact mechanical gaming keyboard that is also somewhat of a custom keyboard experience when you're piecing it all together. You can either have it pre-built for you, or you can have them send you a DIY kit and put it all together yourself. But out of those two, which one is going to be the best way to configure this keyboard? Well, that's what we're going to be going over in this video today, and we're going to be talking about if this keyboard is really worth it or not. Let's start off talking about the color options of this keyboard. So this keyboard does come in black. It also comes in white, as well as this transparent colorway that I have today, where you can allow the RGB lights to shine through the top of the case. And the way this keyboard is assembled, basically, let me go ahead and unplug it for you guys real quick, but basically you have this top frame on the keyboard that you can remove, and you just kind of pull it off. You have this little magnetic badge here that is optional, so you don't have to get this if you don't want to, but you can. It's literally like a couple of dollars, and you might as well, because there's no key there, and it does give it a little bit of personality. But technically you could use this keyboard without the top frame, and it would just be a low profile board and have the entire switch basically exposed, which is okay. Like, I mean, you know, if you like this kind of look and you want something that's going to be very similar to like a glorious GMMK, and yeah, you know, it's fine to use it like that, but personally I like to use it with this top shell on, because it just makes the keyboard look a little bit more premium and a little bit more complete. So, and if you get the transparent one, the RGB is pretty decent as well. So when you plug it in, again, you get that nice RGB shine. Talking about the keycaps real quick, you can also swap these things to be white or black for the main color, and then you can pick these add-on colors as well. And I don't know what happened to my left shift. I think I probably lost it or something when I was initially putting it all together, but I digress. I can't find it. I don't know what I did with it. But anyways, I have the white base with the Miami blue side accent pieces and whatnot, and I think that this combo does look pretty good, but the keycap quality is not that great. Laser etched ABS, and it feels chalky, and quite frankly, they feel cheap. I would not pay extra money to get these. So I would actually opt to not get any of the keycaps from Xtrfy, just because the quality, in my opinion, is just not up to standards. I would rather use literally anything else. In my opinion, I would definitely make sure that you get OEM profile keycaps, which are a little bit taller, and that's what these are. And that's why when you lift up the keyboard, none of the key switches themselves are actually exposed. Now for my build, I decided to go with the Kale Pro copper switches, and these switches, I mean, yeah, they're like a speed switch that has shorter actuation, and they're also a little tactile. But Kale honestly right now does not have the best switch choices available, and I didn't really think that they sounded that good in this keyboard. So I would actually opt to either get Gateron switches and lube them yourself, or you can just go ahead and purchase the new Gateron Pro Series switches. I'll leave a link to them in the description below. Gateron Pro reds, yellows, or silvers are pretty good if you like linears. They do a very good job at lubing those switches from the factory, and they will take out honestly a lot of work that you just don't want to do, because lubing switches is extremely time consuming. This keyboard does have 5-pin hot swap compatibility as well, so you can use your own switches, which is part of the reason why I recommended those Gateron Pro Series switches, because they don't break the bank. Now, Xtrfy does include some PCB mounted stabilizers with this thing, so you do have pre-lubed by hand PC mounted stabilizers. But I do want to mention that my left shift is a little mushy. It's not horrible where it's unusable, but just probably from overdoing a lot of custom keyboards, I'm just really used to not mushy stabilizers. So I just would like to see them do a little bit better as far as the QC on the lube job. But honestly speaking, if I didn't build custom keyboards and I tested these, I'd be like, wow, this is actually pretty good, because I'm not crazy and don't own a million keyboards. But regardless, my opinion on it is that the left shift is still a little bit more overlubed than I would like to see. Taking a look at these stabilizers themselves, it looks like they use a pretty thick lube, and I honestly don't recommend using a lube that thick. I'm not sure if it's Crytox 205 grade 0, or if it's something that's a little bit more similar to Crytox XHT BDZ, which basically is just super duper thick lube. It looks like they use that on the entire stabilizer, which you really should just use it on the wire to reduce rattle, but you typically would either use a lighter lube on the entire stabilizer or a lighter lube on the stabilizer housing and a thicker lube on just the wire alone. I'm not sure what Xtrfy did, but whatever they did, these are not the fastest responding and feeling stabilizers. They're decent, but I would not call them great. I'm not entirely sure what the max polling rate of this keyboard is. I'm pretty sure it's 1,000. If it was more than that, I think that they would definitely market it and tell you that it's 2 or 4,000 or 8,000 hertz polling rate, but they call it like a super scan technology where it scans many times a second to get the fastest response. I'm pretty sure it's probably just 1,000 hertz polling rate coming from whatever processor they have inside the PCB, but for gaming, this should be pretty good. Now, as far as my opinions on how this keyboard sounds with the foam that they have between the plate and the PCB, the PC mounted stabilizer, the hot swap capability, the taller case, the OEM switches, and blah, blah, blah. The Kale copper switches definitely didn't help. Kale, they should probably pre-lube switches from the factory. But honestly speaking, I was expecting this keyboard to sound better than what it did. And maybe just because the Ducky 1.3 already had my expectations set pretty high, even with those horrible cherry switches, it still managed to sound pretty decent. And you can easily fix that by swapping to those Gateron Pro Series switches that I mentioned earlier. I was kind of hoping that this keyboard would leave me with the same impression, but just be more customizable than the Ducky keyboard. And it definitely is more customizable, but unfortunately the keycap quality honestly sucks. I wouldn't recommend these at all. I'll give you guys a quick sound test right now of those Kale Pro switches. And then I'll also give you guys a sound test using a couple of extras because I have a Boba U4T. I take that back. This is a Boba U4 linear and a Gateron Black Ink V2 lubed and film. Both of these are lubed. Pretty high-end switches that are gonna make any keyboard sound its absolute best that it possibly can, just because of how high-end these switches are. So there's just a bit of echo that I'm just not the hugest fan of that comes from this keyboard. And I don't really know if it's because the bottom of the case is very hollow or if it's just the construction of it, but it's just not my favorite sounding keyboard. And I'm sure that it's fine, but I'm having a hard time finding a way to justify spending nearly $200 on a fully built keyboard with this configuration. Or even just the base price and just take the keyboard for $130 and then buying my own switches and buying my own keycaps. Because I'm gonna give you guys a couple scenarios just to kind of tell you where I'm coming from. But if I'm gonna buy a custom keyboard like a KBD 67 Lite and spend $130 on just the case alone, I'd rather get that because the stabilizers that they give me are better and they're not pre-lubed. I can lube them myself and lube them to my own liking, buy my own switches, buy my own keycaps. If I'm gonna do this, that's gonna cost me the same thing. And objectively, I don't really have a better keyboard because this has north-facing LEDs. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure they're using the wrong lube on the stabilizers because they feel a little bit too sluggish. And then if I just wanted a nice gaming keyboard, I could just buy a Ducky 1.3. And if I really cared about the sound, if I wasn't in love with the cherry switches like I am, they now have classic colors available. So I could just buy the black or white one or whatever they have, and I'd be set. I could swap out the switches if I really wanted to those Gateron Pro switches, but I'm just really disappointed in Xtrfy. In this release, maybe I was expecting a little bit too much. I'm not too sure. I was really excited to try this, and then I put it together on stream, twitch.tv/TechKyle, and I just was not really all of that impressed. The keyboard is okay, but I can't really give it anything past okay, and it's too expensive for me to recommend this thing 100% of the time for what you get. Bad keycaps, the sound is okay, the stabilizer's kind of sluggish, and the little extras and customization is nice. I just wish that the build materials were nicer for the price. That's all I have for you guys though. If you guys enjoy, thank you again for watching Too Much Tech, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed.